Nerd Rage Renegades.
Chief, he wild, Chief. Kulbir back, episode 175. He back, he runs this shit. What can you do, Chief?
It's his game now.
What can you do?
What is his character? Is he a show?
It's a YouTube channel that me and Spin watch, and it's pretty funny. They take clips of things. Yeah, Djibouti shit.
Yeah, gotta love it. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, it is episode 175 of the Nerd Rage Renegades. And with us, as always, every 25 episodes. Now, Chief, did we say this is no longer the path of destruction? We're no longer on that path?
I'm thinking it's more like a glorious renewal now. It's not. It's less of a. It's like less of like a prophecy coming fulfilled. It's like this promise of renewal when Kulbir comes back. I'm thinking of more.
He comes down from the mountain carrying the stone tablets, and we all listen to his words when he speaks.
His pontifications on comic books and the like.
And it is.
And you wonder why I keep coming back, because he's just so full of kind words.
Well, we love you here, Kulbir, and we look forward to you coming back every time. And we've been gearing up for you because I think, what was it you say, like the last 3 or 4 episodes we've been doing the comic book hero exposés on different characters. So it's perfect timing for you to be coming back at 175. And we're going to talk some Rebirth, I guess. Have you been reading the Rebirth?
I read a mixture of things. I think I, on the whole, read things less, but I still try and read a bit of everything.
Excellent.
But no, it's amazing. Like I was saying to you before, that if you think about when I started with you guys, way back when, and over time now, I stopped writing so much, and then I used to podcast with a group of local people, and then that's just finished. But yeah, here we are, this constant fixture that keeps coming back every 25 episodes, every few months.
We just figured every 25 weeks you shouldn't get a night's sleep.
It's really weird how it organically worked out that way the first few times. It was just every time.
Oh, it's like creepy, really. But it works out lovely, and it's always in my diary, so it always happens. And you get used to it now. So like, it's not as if I don't do night shifts regularly. So
yeah,
I'm happy to kind of be a bit sleep deprived, but it's okay. It's for the love.
The only kink in my plan is you haven't watched the Royal Rumble yet.
Oh no, because I would have watched it on my own, but I've got my friends watching pay-per-views every now and again, especially when it comes from the January to March, April time, because it's the best time to watch WWE.
Yeah.
And I'm quite excited watching it on Tuesday.
It's I'll tell you this, I enjoyed it. There was some slow matches, but I think you'll really enjoy at least the Rumble matches. You'll really enjoy the Rumble matches.
It depends on how much effort they make in the Rumble match. Like, you just gotta love those moments where they have the little special things where people fight.
The male match, probably the best one they've had in years.
Oh, that's great. And also, I love it. The ending, when the ending's done well, it's just the best.
Yeah. Now this one, of course, you got the women's Royal Rumble. That's the final match of the card. That they put the women on last. So the men was like. The third match in was the men's Royal Rumble. Then you had 2 more matches, and then the women.
And how many wrestlers in the women's one?
30 wrestlers.
Oh, so they actually have a full-on female Royal Rumble? I thought they had like a smaller card.
Nope, 30. I'm not going to tell you who's in it, but there are 30 participants.
WWE's making progress.
He's making progress.
You've got to give him credit for that. I mean, for so many years, it was like this horrible misogynistic kind of babe fest, wasn't it? And now
it was kind of. I think it was more. They thought it was more of a joke for the men to watch a bunch of women wrestle around, jiggle around, and now it's more like athleticism and competition.
Sadly, your home country girl Paige, of course, had to retire because of a neck injury, so she wasn't able to compete.
Oh, she was actually very talented. She was from Norwich, I think. There's a documentary on BBC One about her family because they're all wrestlers. And the next thing you know, she's a WWE. You're like, wow, this is based on real.
Yeah. So you get that, and they are doing more progression because next month is going to be the first ever women's elimination chamber match.
Oh, the Elimination Chambers are not easy matches to pull off.
No, that's a Chief. So Chief, the elimination chamber is you have the ring and it's around this huge steel structure, and in the structure are 4 glass pods. So it's 6 wrestlers, 2 start in the ring, 4 are in these pods, and every minute, 2 minutes, one of the pods opens and another wrestler comes in until all the wrestlers are in the ring, and it's an elimination match. You pin one, they're gone. Things like that, but it can get very bloody very quickly.
Really, the women hit each other with chairs and stuff, like the men.
Oh yeah, they've taken them through tables and all sorts of stuff.
I don't watch wrestling. I don't know. I'm not.
The thing is, they made wrestling a lot safer in the last few years than they ever had before. So they don't do so much of that as they used to, especially with the whole concussion thing. So now that's such a big deal. As it should be, rightly. Now people don't take shots directly to the head with it, but they do use them in the rest of the body. So these sort of matches now, they used to just be based around sheer violence and just destroy the other person as best they can. But now it's a bit safer and it's less risky. But it's still, wrestling's never been about the violence; it's been about the story. So
now, are you and your buddies going to be watching the NXT show that was on Saturday before you watch the Rumble?
No, I'll probably be watching that, to be honest. Myself, because so when was the last time I watched NXT? I think it's been a good 6 months actually.
This one had 2 amazing matches. You had Adam Cole versus Aleister Black in an Extreme Rules match. That match, Adam Cole, baby, really good match.
I actually met him last year when Ring of Honor came to Liverpool. And I was talking to him about these matches that he did a couple of years earlier, and he was like, "Wow, you know loads of wrestling." I was like, "Yeah, man. When you did this match, this is incredible work. I didn't know how you were gonna pull this off, but you did." And he was such a lovely guy to talk to. I never thought he would be, but he was just out of them all. I met him. I was really happy, and he was just a really lovely, charming guy.
So here's the thing, Kulbir. Given your profession, when you watch wrestling and you see a guy get cut, are you like? I know exactly what artery that gets. I know exactly where that blood's coming from.
You do, but then you realise that when they're trying to pretend which injuries they have and they forget. I don't think they can really do that. It's like I twisted, you'll see ones will act like they twisted their ankle, but then they're running across the ring 2 seconds later.
Hold on. Whatever.
There are a few wrestlers, and Chris Benoit used to be one of them, that used to maintain their injuries to the very end, and I used to really respect how they used to their dedication to their craft.
That's part of the. That's the skill is part of the tactic too, as well as physical exertion.
Yeah.
So you got to remember what's going on in your own story.
Yeah. What was the other match?
The other match is the NXT Championship match. It was the champion Andrade Cien Almas versus Johnny Gargano. That match was amazing. It told a great story. There was great work with Andrade Cien Almas' manager Zelina Vega, who was Esthea Trinidad.
He's coming along very nicely, hasn't he? He's quite. Have you speak before?
He's gotten there was a long time where he was just you didn't think he was going to make it, but then I guess something in the back, something behind the scenes, he got his act together, and now he's putting on great matches. Fantastic matches. His match with Drew McIntyre was amazing a couple months ago.
It was Shinsuke Bobby Roode was the last match that I watched on the NXT pay-per-views.
Yeah, so you had Shinsuke versus Bobby Roode, and then Bobby lost the title to Drew McIntyre or Drew Galloway.
They gave it to Drew Galloway.
Yeah, and then he dropped it to Andrade Cien Almas, which was a great match because Bobby Roode got called up to the main roster, and that's my son's favorite wrestler. Bobby Roode is
a legend, absolute legend.
My son has 2 Bobby Roode shirts, and he wears them all the time. He absolutely loves them, and of course my daughter, she only wears her Paige shirt because, well, her name is Paige. So she's like, that's my favorite wrestler because she's got my name, you know. So, but no, you'll enjoy watching them, man. It was a great weekend of wrestling. You know, we're on the road to WrestleMania.
It's the one thing I have not stopped doing since I was a child. So WrestleMania 3 was on March 29th, and it was, I think it was 9 years old. It was on my birthday, and I remember watching it on TV, and it was just the greatest thing ever. And since then, I've never not watched a WrestleMania.
That was my first one as well. It's, Hogan and Andre.
Oh yeah, the build up and the story to that kind of stuff is just epic proportions. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
No, and you had Mr. T versus Roddy Piper in a boxing match.
Wrestling was getting like real rock and roll, like mainstream at that point in history, and it was like everywhere. I mean, you heard about that match everywhere that was going to happen. Well, I wasn't even into wrestling, and I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, because Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon were just like amazing promoters, so good at what they were doing at that time, and they unified the game, didn't they? So there was the local shows all disappeared once Hogan came on the TV, and they had a nationalized TV show, and that was it. Like every little wrestling company in America lost it, and they just struggled to get it back. And it's really sad if you think about it, because there were a lot of like, good local shows that were happening.
Oh yeah, we've got a local show that's coming to our local high school here on the 13th, and my son is excited to go. And a lot of legends will be there. Kevin Nash is going to be there. Scott Steiner is going to be there. The Rock and Roll Express are going to be there, and of course James Ellsworth is going to be there. Oh boy, James Ellsworth! Yay! But no, you'll really enjoy watching it, Kulbir. I'll admit, it was a really good show. There, like I said, there was a couple slow matches, but other than that, the Rumble was probably the best it's been in years, and there were surprises. It was really good.
Oh, that's awesome! I can't wait. I'm glad that there's a women's Rumble. They've been tapping the NXT roster.
I am not telling you who they brought in. I'm not telling you who they brought in. You got to watch for yourself.
It was the Iron Sheik. It was the Iron Sheik.
Yeah, Sheik
number one.
The most entertaining people.
Greatest tweet. That was the greatest tweet.
The Monday can go fuck itself.
I love this tweet. He put up. Chief put it on Facebook. I shared it. He goes, "What the world needs now is to shut the fuck up."
And he's right.
he's
so damn right. I'm done with.
I love the Sheik.
Chief and I were talking
on Facebook and Twitter, and it's the same thing, and I still love it. I've got to see it every day.
Chief and I were actually talking before you came on. We were talking about the state of comics today and how it seems like nobody is happy. Nobody is happy. I mean, a writer can pour his heart and soul into a book, or her heart and soul into a book, but nobody is happy with anything, whether it's on the comic side, whether it's in comic book movies, comic book TV shows. Everybody feels they are the head of Marvel or DC or Image. Although when it comes to Walking Dead, Chief and I are correct, so yeah, that one is right. We can bitch all we want about that fucking show.
No, I've got a real problem with the show taking a turn like it did, but other than that, yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm happy with a lot of things in comics.
Oh, I'm happy.
There's a few things that I don't like about it, and the other stuff I don't care. So it doesn't hurt me.
That's very true. Is like, it's sad. Like, I really struggle with Twitter now because it's never about promoting good. It was never actually about promoting good comics. It was all about people discussing opinions. But now it's just everyone seems to be able to think that their opinion means something. And I'm the first person to say to you that everyone has a voice. But I also think people need to not be so negative, and that's not a way to promote something that you love. And if something that you love is not what you once thought it was, you have to kind of accept that and then move on. Which is the reason why I stopped writing, because there were fewer things to write about. And recently there's been some good books that I've been like, oh, I can write about this. There's about 4 or 5 titles I'm thinking, I should really write about this, because this is something that everyone needs to know about. And I do, and there's so many times I think, right, I'm going to write about this, I'm going to do this, and I'm just trying to find the time now, because things in my life have changed a little bit, because like I was doing a PhD and I had lots of time to do my own thing, and now I'm back full time doing surgery. So my days are a lot longer, and I have to do a lot more work for my thesis and things. And I'm like, damn, I miss being able to do this. And like, I have no idea like how I got to like 600 odd posts, but it was something that it's a pure passion. And like, I really would love to try and find something similar to that again, that I can do. That's why I'm sad that I don't podcast so much more, because that was like my least. I can't stop talking about comics because I love them. Like, that would never change. Even if there's less books to talk about, it's still books to read. Like, I still read a fair amount every week.
So what are you reading right now that's sticking out to you? What's something recent that you wanted to write on and you haven't written anything on yet?
There is an independent book called, I'll show you, but I'll show you by show everyone else, but it's called The Beautiful Death. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
No, I have not seen that.
It's just one of these. It's just one of these.
What's
it's
the
like
publisher on it? Who put it out?
It is Static Press, and it's a book that I've really enjoyed because it has the most incredibly intricate artwork, and you can really appreciate that. It just looks so impressive. I think it's a French creator, and it's just
See, that looks good. See, I think that's one thing that's missing in the mainstream is that kind of art, that level of art. It's few and far between in the mainstream industry these days.
It seems like the mainstream, you get more of the cutesy art nowadays in so many of the books than you do the old gritty art. Like a book that should be a gritty artwork, they're still trying to make it seem like cutesy, and when it has no business to be.
I think in mainstream superhero comics, I think that there are still some things have changed somewhat, and I think there's a pressure to get books out so quickly, and I don't think you can get books out monthly with the same artist to that level of quality anymore. So, I mean, this is only issue number 5, and this has been going on, I think, for the best part of the year. But it's just a beautiful story, really well told visually, and he's obviously the writer and the artist, and it's just something I relish every time I read it. And it's just so good. I just want to tell. I always tweet about it. I always say, "Did you read this? This is great." And I absolutely love it. So that's something that's just everyone should just read. So that's one thing. But the mainstream is on fire, and that's everything he writes. I try not to. I wrote a lot about him on my blog, and now I still tweet about him, and I don't want to keep sounding like a boring person because that's all I keep going on about, and that's one of the things that I get a bit like, I don't want to keep like blowing his trumpet 24/7, but I should do because it's still good. But also his set of artists now are also amazing. Like Mitch Gerard's on Mr. Miracle, his work is just phenomenal. Like how he makes like a reality TV show out of Mr. Miracle is something that's really cleverly done. And everyone should be checking out and seeing like the way in which he develops the story with these 9 panel pages. It's glorious.
Yeah, I do want to get the trade of Mr. I missed out on getting it when it started, and then I didn't get the rest of them because I missed the first one. But I'm definitely gonna get it in trade because I hear it's incredibly good.
Which one is that?
The Mr. Miracle.
Oh yes, Tom King. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I was reading interesting. So I guess they had put some. I don't know if DC or somebody had put something up about Tom King. Because he's collaborating with something, and so many people on that official DC thread were bashing him, saying how it's the worst Batman they've ever read. He destroyed Batman, and I'm just sitting there going, how can you say that? His Batman run has been phenomenal. He built on what Snyder had laid the foundation for, and he built on it. And we're getting some.
Changed it. It's different. It's different, but still great.
How many people have written and drawn Batman? Like, how can there be one type of Batman anymore? Of all characters, who has more variations on one character than Batman? And he's still everyone's favorite character ever. Like every single person loves Batman.
Yeah, and I mean,
there's no right for anyone to say anything like that. It's just ridiculous to think that you can.
And they try to go back to, and they all have their opinion on who they say Tom King is horrible, but then they all try to give their opinion on who they think is the best. And I'm sitting there going, I'll be the first to say that if I don't like a story, I'm not criticizing the writer. I'm criticizing the story because there are times I may think it doesn't work, or I was expecting maybe something else, but this is still what the writer's vision was. Let's see where it pans out. Unless it's just completely horrid, and the movement and I still harp on that book. That was DC. What were you doing during that time? But and notice I said the movement. I did not say Captain Marvel. Not at all. But last time you were here, we had talked a little. We had Secret Empire was going on the last time you were here. Did you finish Secret Empire?
Of course. Sadly, where is Nick Spencer now?
Oh, what is he doing now? Now, Chief, you still haven't read Secret Empire, is that correct?
Yeah, I have not. I may go back and look at it, but I've started getting Marvel again because
it's actually a great crossover. It's a great storyline.
I was waiting for Banner Hulk, and then they said he was coming back in No Surrender, so I started picking up some Marvel. after they killed the Banner Hulk off in Civil War II, I was pretty angry with Marvel.
Civil War II, there was an awful lot of mess in that storyline.
Yeah, so I didn't read any of Secret Empire. I mean, I had gotten off Marvel because of that long before Secret Empire came out. So I missed a great deal of it. Here
was my issue with Civil War II. It seemed to me, now this was a Bendis run event. Who he's now over at DC Comics. He's going to be writing new Superman stories over there. But Chief, remind me, there's an email I need to send you with some preview stuff about that.
Oh.
But it really, Civil War II seemed to me more of, we need to get rid of these characters to make way for these other characters. So that's what it was like, we need to get rid of Tony Stark because we need to put spotlight on Riri Williams. We need to get rid of Bruce Banner because we really need the full Hulk focus on Amadeus Cho. We really need Miles Morales to be more in the spotlight, which I don't mind. I like Miles Morales. I really do. I like Miles Morales. But it really did just seem like Bendis telling the world, all the original superheroes you loved are shit. They have no place in modern comics. We're getting rid of them because we're going to bring up these new characters and they are going to be better than the old ones. That's what and then you have the Ulysses Inhuman that has these powers, and then he goes off and you don't really hear about him anymore.
Oh, he becomes a Celestial, doesn't he? So
yeah.
That's the thing I didn't like about it, is that the storyline never actually ended. And the whole Captain Marvel business and her being on the wrong side of the right side of the law and Tony on the other side was just thrown to the side. And it didn't matter anymore because there was no impact apart from the deaths of the characters. So where is the impact of the storyline? And that didn't exist. At least the original Civil War had a point.
Yeah.
This one didn't really have a point. And there were some nice graphic and emotional moments in this, but there wasn't an overriding storyline in it, and it just petered out, just disappeared. The ending just didn't really exist, and that's the biggest disappointment, and that's a damn shame.
Well, see, I think one of the writers I always harp on about how great they are. Well, Tom King's one of them, obviously. Jonathan Hickman, another fantastic writer. Jason Aaron, another great one. I just think that there's very few on that level. I like my superhero stories. I don't want kooky, wacky shit in my superhero books. I want them to be deep and well written and have meaning and have impact on the future of the Marvel Universe, like the way Hickman writes or the way Aaron writes, to where the stuff they write means something. It means something in the long run. And some of this wacky, kooky, cartoony looking Marvel stuff, it just doesn't feel like comics to me. Not what I grew up on and not what I like about comics. And the guys like Aaron and Hickman just seem to be dropping away from the mainstream and going and doing other stuff. And like some of my favorite heroes are getting left to these people that are drawing them kooky and cartoony and fun loving. I don't want fun loving. I mean, for me, yeah, I guess. But I mean, for me,
it is, because things are changing.
Well, things can. I mean, people. I welcome people to do that, but I also the ones that I like are the writers and the artists that I like are gravitating away from the mainstream. And
it was Marvel Now, wasn't it? Marvel Now was kind of like your and my favorite kind of era when Hickman was writing the Avengers and everything else is kind of producing a lot of high quality solo books, and that was such a good time. There was so much going on, and there was so much like invention and interesting stuff going on artist wise.
I mean, that's when you had Hickman's Avengers, you had the Superior Spider-Man, which was we've always harped that Superior was amazing. You had a good Fantastic Four ongoing, story. But nowadays, I'll say this: Secret Empire. I think we talked about it last time. I think that was Nick Spencer's middle finger saying, "Fuck you, Marvel was great. Chief, we're gonna make Marvel great again. It's gonna be amazing. We're gonna build a giant wall around the DC Comics. No DC Comics are gonna come in. We're gonna have DC Comics pay for it.
It's huge.
It's huge, Chief. It's huge.
Comics pay for it." But Nick Spencer was vilified, and he didn't handle himself very well on Twitter either.
No, I just looked. His account's still protected. His account is locked. You have to request to follow him on Twitter. He's still protected.
Mark Waid rage quit Twitter a couple of weeks ago or whatever.
And it's a shame because Nick Spencer's one of those writers that I championed very early on before he became huge, and to see him kind of fall apart really is really sad because the guy is a talented writer and he's a very good story builder, and his intricate weaving of his plots is really interesting to read, and I always just found it really interesting to talk to as well. And his Captain America story ended really well. His Falcon was just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, the whole that beginning was how do you take an African American guy being Captain America and keeping it politically relevant, and that's especially in current era America, and that's something he did, and no one's really done a story about that. And now they're trying, the new Falcon writer is trying to do something similar, but it's not working. So he's still trying to make this a fantasy story. So Nick Spencer never did that. He kept it very real, and that progressed from him being Falcon to Captain America to him failing and then coming back again. And it was such a great story. And you ignore Steve Rogers, you ignore the Hydra stuff, right? That was his real Captain America story.
Yeah, it really was.
That didn't really bother me, because with comic, you got to think, comic books are going to change every 6 months. Captain America is going to be evil for a little bit, and then he's going to be Captain America again. They're not just going to make Steve Rogers evil forever and leave him that way. That's going to happen. I just think that. I don't know. It's Captain America in the 80s. There was a time when there was the Captain America No More storyline or whatever, and that's when they had Nomad or whatever become Captain America for a while, and and he was wearing the black suit with the white star on it or whatever he had.
Yeah.
And it's nobody lost their shit over that back then. I mean, practically the same thing. He left the shield to somebody else, which even then I thought Sam Wilson should have got it back then. I had thought with all of his team ups with, I would say T'Challa, but T'Challa's a king. He doesn't need to be Captain America. He's got his own kingdom. But Sam Wilson should have been Captain America back in the 80s, but they gave it to a few other people had taken the
Bucky had taken it.
Captain America. And
yeah,
it's
people,
I didn't understand the uproar over the Captain America thing.
It took a long time to write a letter instead of tweeting.
I say first of all, I think Secret Empire ended perfectly, and the final battle between Hydra Cap and Classic Cap was so good, tying around the sentient cosmic cube and everything like that. And then they come out with Legacy, and I will admit. Most of the Legacy titles I am absolutely enjoying. X-Men, I have told Chief this multiple times, the X-Men books are back to what they should be. About mutants, about the struggles of mutants. They've had story arcs with the Executioner. They've had story arcs with Mojo. It's like everything we used to love about the X-Men books, where it was there's the Blob, there's Juggernaut. They're back in the X-Men books. There's a great book, Weapon X, which is Wolverine, Sabretooth, Lady Deathstrike, Warpath, and Domino as a team, which I really enjoy. I love that. Chief's and I both have been loving the new Punisher book that's been out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I read that tonight, and I think what are we three? This is like the third part of the War Machine storyline.
Yeah.
Third or fourth part.
Frank Castle gets the War Machine armor.
It is night and day between that and what Clint was. I'm telling you that last series, he was catching like guys in the subway pushing people in front of trains. Like this is not what Frank Castle does. Frank Castle takes out an army, like a rogue military group or something. That's what Frank Castle doesn't catch muggers and subway guys.
The Legacy title is a bit meaningless. I think it only really has any sense with X-Men, because X-Men have gone back to that kind of early to mid 90s titles with like Generation X and having 2 X-Men teams and having all these mutants backing together, because they weren't giving X-Men no attention for a long period of time.
Yeah, they had that Inhumans on the brain for a few years.
And it was awful, but Tom Taylor on All New Wolverine is still writing a brilliant All New Wolverine book.
Oh yeah,
that is a good
really
book.
Good that's like probably my favorite X-Men book actually, and it's fun and it's well written. The characters he's introduced like Gabby are just gorgeous.
I like Gabby. I do like Gabby.
I really love the new Wolverine's interactions with Old Man Logan, just in any title. Whenever Old Man Logan and her are together, it's some of the best stuff going on, I think.
Yeah. But once again, Marvel have. There's lots been mentioned recently on the internet and elsewhere about Marvel's policies now and sending books to shops. So they, with the whole variant cover business as well, that they'll have to sell a certain amount of books before you can get a variant cover in your shop. So a lot of these comic shops are buying lots of these books and trying to sell the variant covers to get more people buying things. So I think they get to return their books, but I think the numbers still count towards Marvel. So I think the sales numbers are not as good as they make out. And then
I think Marvel used to have a no return. They used to have a no return. I don't know if they do now, but I think they used to have a no return policy at one point.
And that's the bad thing, this variant thing. I understand variants, but it's become that's what most people they're not buying it to read the book. They're buying it for the cover that they can sell on eBay for $200, $300. That's what's bad.
It is, and it's pretty disgusting. And then Marvel have used a poor selling policy as an excuse for then saying legacy titles only just because no one wants to read a female Iron Man, and that's utter bullshit. And that was never the case. It's not the fact that using some diversity in your superheroes is the reason why it's not selling. It's because you have this failed marketing model, which is just awful. And my local shop has problems with it. They just don't seem to sell books anymore on the whole, and they have to really buy more Funko Pops to make money.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is you get those covers when they're like a 1 in 50 stores or a 1 in 75 stores, whatever. The shop gets those. Whenever my shop's got, a lot of times my guy Mike just turns them down. He doesn't care about the incentive. He just says, well, I don't want the incentive. Nobody's gonna come in and buy these, so he doesn't do it. He just gets whatever amount he needs for the store. But once in a while they'll get one of those. Just I don't know if it's random or if Marvel just throws people a bone once in a while and sends out a random one to different shops. But they'll put those in there, and they're like immediately $45 for with the cover price of like $2.99 or whatever. It's $45, $75 for this book that just came out. And it's like, nah, I'm not paying that.
I mean, my shop, there are some times where they'll go ahead and give me a variant at like cover price, depending on what it is. But there are ones, like especially some of the Howard ones, I paid $25 for, because the only 2 books I said I want variants for was Howard the Duck and Sonic the Hedgehog. Those were the only 2 books I always said I want, cover A and cover B and whatnot. Other than that, like I'll get some books from like Dynamite, and Dynamite usually they'll have 6 covers for a book: cover A, cover B, cover C, the cosplay variant cover. I just tell them whatever you want to throw in the box. I don't care what cover it is, but when variants have become what everybody's looking for, everybody wants that variant. They want, I want the variant that has Deadpool on it, even though Deadpool is nowhere in the book whatsoever. He's just on the cover for some weird fucking reason.
I've never gone to look for a variant with intention. The only ones I've ever bought were they just happened to be there when I saw them, and I said that's cool. I really like that cover. I want that. And and I was buying the regular cover anyway, and I just happened to see that the variant, and I'll grab that too. But yeah, I've never bought any book just for the cover alone, not one.
Now the other thing is, everybody's been up in arms because Marvel has canceled a lot of books lately. As you were alluding to, Kulbir, about the cancellations. They canceled Jean Grey, which I enjoyed the book Jean Grey. I thought Jean Grey was a very, very good book. I loved her interactions with Namor and Quentin Quire and all those other characters, and that got canceled. Did America get canceled, or is she still ongoing?
I don't think so. I think they're still cranking that one out.
Cranking that one out. But Gwenpool got canceled.
Iceman. Gwenpool getting canceled is a surprise.
Yeah. I love Gwenpool. I thought that was one of the better ones that they'd come out with. It was one of my. It was a concept. It was fun. It was a fun. It was like, I usually don't like the kooky stuff, like I said before, but that was made with the intention of almost like Howard the Duck. It was almost like a satire, like almost the way Howard the Duck was when it came out.
Yeah.
And she was a person from the real world that got dropped into the 616 Marvel universe and was interacting with and she knew everybody's secret identities. She knew what powers they had because she read comics, and she knew. So she adopted this. She's almost got the fourth wall power that Deadpool has, and that she knows.
A very interesting idea.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting concept which they ran with.
Did they just? I'm not caught up to it. Did they just end it, or was there an ending written for it? Or
I'm not sure.
Leave it cliffhanger style.
I am not sure. With everything that they've done, and one of the things I was excited about when I first heard about it, but then when I realized they were only one-shots, I got really upset. Is they brought out old titles, but only as one-shots. So Shang-Chi, Darkhawk, Power Pack, Silver Sable. They brought out these, and then they're like...
2-in-1's a series, though. They're keeping 2-in-1 going, right?
But, like, I read the Darkhawk one-shot, and it was amazing. It was so good. But then it's like, you read it, it's a one-shot, and at the end... But it has the old numbering on it. But at the end, it's like, do you want more of this story? Write to Marvel, because they actually... It's like they started a story. They actually started a story that could go on, because they had mentioned things like in that book, like Annihilation, and how he couldn't control the Darkhawk for a while, and things like that. And then it's just like, you want to read more? Write to Marvel and ask to make this a... I'm like, nobody's going to write you, Marvel, because they're too busy on Twitter complaining about how some artist drew a character's butt.
It won't be what they want, but they'll write to them.
And I liked the Power Pack one, because the Power Pack was amazing. It taught, because they actually aged. They're older now.
I missed that book, and I liked the interaction between them and the Future Foundation and the Fantastic Four. And that's a book I thought should have matured. Like they've gotten older and have an adult team of Power Pack. Maybe they have their own kids with powers at some point.
Are you reading Runaways? Runaways is a really lovely book.
I am reading Runaways. I was talking about that with the Chief. So I got Runaways because I love the character of Nico. I have always liked Nico. I liked her when was it Hopeless that did Avengers Arena? I really liked her in Avengers Arena and then Avengers Underground. I'm reading it. I'm liking it. I understand why it has to happen, but I really hate so much emphasis on Gert, and her attitude really pisses me off.
Yeah, she's a bit of a pain in the butt.
She's a huge pain, and I understand why. She's out of time. She's a girl out of time. She doesn't understand all this stuff that's happened. But at the same time, she's really annoying. But I love the Nico, story in that. I love her, what she's going through and what everybody's going through. So I am reading it. I am enjoying it. And that's a new writer to Marvel. Rainbow. What's her name? I forget.
Rainbow Bright.
Light bright. Turn on the magic of colored lights.
Today I read the latest issue of Spider-Man, and Wolverine did one of those little cameos at the end of it. So what all?
Let me just let me check who is writing Runaways. Why have I forgotten this?
Yeah, and Chief, it kind of I lost you guys there for just a second, so I missed that whole thing you just said.
Oh, I said, what's
It's
the
a
deal
ra-
with the? Oh, go ahead, Kulbir.
Yeah, so it's Rainbow Rao, but more importantly, it's Chris Anker's doing the art, and he does gorgeous kind of close-up
Yes.
facial expressions thing, so he does a really good job. Yeah, so Wolverine is back. We don't know how or why or how the adamantium casing has melted.
It's like
They
kind
have
of
these little
torn
snippets.
asunder.
They showed that it almost was kind of like it was like he broke out of it. That's like they
Yeah.
showed it, and it was kind of like he broke out of it, because I'm not sure if it was Kitty that went to look at it,
Yeah.
or somebody did. And I mean, he showed up at Thor too. At the end of Thor, Jane Foster's in the hospital. He brought her flowers and handed them to the receptionist, and was like, she's like, "There's no card there." He's like, "I know," and he just walks out.
And they show these little snippets of him appearing in certain comics at the back, just a couple of panels, and it's quite nice actually. It's not in your face. It's very subtle, and he's obviously returning.
It to something.
Well, we know he has an Infinity Stone with him. He has an
Infinity Empire, wasn't it? That's what happened.
Yeah.
There's one in Spider-Man 794 too at the very end, and he says he's like it's not. He's like talking. I guess he's talking to the Infinity Gem that he's got, and he says no. He says something like it's not time yet. And he just like walks away.
But yeah, I guess he'll be back. Marvel have chopped and changed their characters and the way they deal with their numbering and their arcs and their reboots. So a lot more than DC ever did. DC did one reboot. Marvel thought this is a good idea and just did it to death.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't worked. And they just seem to be inconsistent in what they're moving forward with. And Rebirth with DC, like, I don't read huge amounts anymore. I like to read the Wildstorm stuff, which I think is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I read Batman, I read Superman because of Tomasi and Gleason, who are just phenomenal as they've always been. And Nightwing, now by
Okay.
Sam Humphries.
All right.
Now, does that surprise you that Bendis is that Superman's better than it's been in I don't know how many years, and they're just gonna and then Bendis is gonna come in and take over? Do you? I don't know if that's an improvement to me. That's all I'm saying.
Well, Tomasi and Gleason have been doing that book since the Rebirth started, and they've done a good job. And they do good long runs, and then they move on to something else. So I don't think it's a bad thing. But it's Bendis, isn't it? Now Bendis
We'll see. I mean, Bendis was good at one time. I mean, he was competent at one time.
Well, Bendis could forget how many Supermen there are, and then he could add a Superman that we don't know where he came from, and then Superman goes back and kills Ray Palmer. Superman and Black Canary go back in time to kill Ray Palmer, and
now I met Bendis last year at the London Super Comic Con. He came and was like one of the stars of the show, and I went to his little. I paid a bit more money to go to his hour in how to write comics, and he was very interesting and really, really pleasant to talk to. Actually, he was not what I expected at all. He's a consummate professional, and he has a lot of respect for comics. He has a lot of respect for artists, and he's a company man almost. Like he knows how to produce books. He knows what the editors want, and he always produces books. And he also is very good at kind of working out what the artist wants to do and things like that. And you can see immediately why he's worked for so long as well as he's worked. And I had a lot of respect for him. I really enjoyed listening to him and asking him a couple of questions, which I was never expecting that. And still, I still don't think he could write a team book. I still think that his solo books are his strongest point, and Jessica Jones is probably his best book he's done recently. And I don't know if I'll pick up his books at DC because I don't have a need to read more Bendis.
Well,
even though he's a nice guy.
Well, he's bringing. He's going to be going to Superman, but then his Jinx World. All his Jinx World titles are now coming to DC. All of them.
That must be the hook.
Yes.
As
long as they don't forget that, as long as he doesn't forget which character is playing which character, as long as he doesn't forget that, this is supposed to be Superior Spider-Man, not Peter Parker, like he did in Age of Ultron. I had to ask you because you mentioned.
I think he was doing a lot of stuff then, though. That's why I think I think that could be the problem with maybe when he has too many projects going on, he gets sidetracked and he forgets things because Dan Slott came out and saved his ass on that and said, "Oh no, that should read, it's supposed to be Doc Ock." Clearly not. The first appearances of Spider-Man in Age of Ultron was clearly not Dr. Octopus. That was Peter Parker dialogue. And and then they came out and they kind of, I don't know if it was just kind of like a tongue in cheek, like, no, yeah, it's supposed to be like, yeah, we're really screwed up. We'll get it right next time, kind of thing. But I don't know. I think he had too much going on. He was doing Powers and everything at the time. I don't know how many titles.
And Powers is coming to DC Comics.
Oh, really? Powers too, huh?
Powers too. Now, Kulbir, I needed to ask you because you mentioned you're reading Nightwing. Have you been reading Rebirth Nightwing the entire time?
Yes.
What are they doing pulling at my heartstrings with Dick and Sean Sang? I mean, this is bullshit. Sean Sang was perfect for Dick Grayson, and then they give me a couple happy issues, and then they rip them apart, and then they kind of she's like, I love you, Defacer and Nightwing can be together, but Dick and Sean cannot be together. I'm like, stop it! I loved her. I love her character. She is his Catwoman. She is his Catwoman. It broke.
It's interesting how Tim Seeley wrote Grayson. I was doing with Tom King, actually was doing really good, and that storyline kind of petered out because he was suddenly put onto. What was he put onto? I can't remember. He went elsewhere for a little while before he did Nightwing.
Yeah.
And it was really sad because the end of his story never happened. It was given to a new artist and a new writer, and that petered out. And so Nightwing was his chance to return, create a new place, and then bring back the old characters, like Tiger Shark and things like that, to try and get them back in and finish the story off. And they finished it was really good, and I was very happy that they actually finished Grayson off in a Nightwing book. And yeah, she was a great character. There's a really interesting relationship dynamic going on with the two of them. And it's a shame that that's not like a more permanent fixture, because it was just compelling writing with a good relationship dialogue. And when do you see that in comics?
What?
Good relationship dialogue.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
I thought Tom King's Batman Catwoman was superior to that. That the letters and is that Rooftops? Is that the name of that arc?
Yeah.
Where they were writing the letters back and forth. That was one of the best arcs of Batman I've ever read in my whole life. And
it's unique. Like, you've not really seen that before. It's like a very different kind of thing, and him proposing. What an interesting concept, right? And you could do so much with it.
I think
what I love about Tom King is it seems like he took what Snyder did, and it's almost like he's transitioned it into what he did. But I still feel that that's still Snyder's Batman. I feel it's the same guy, but it's like it's a different look at him. Like it's somebody else telling his story now. That's a different look at the same.
See, the thing is though,
there wasn't like this jolt. Like I didn't feel that jolt when a team changed when Tom King came on.
But the thing is though with the Nightwing, was it was just so nice to see Dick happy, because everything that's happened to him since the Forever Evil debacle, he's had so much going on. To have him finally happy, and I think my favorite issue was where they had to save Damian, where they went to the desert. It was him and Defacer. They had to save Damian, and she was with him every step of the way. She fought with him, watched his back. That was, like, perfect. I just thought it was fantastic. And then they frick it all up with Dick having to have a tryst with Huntress, which we knew was not going to last.
Which was pointless.
It was pointless. And
it was a storyline from Grayson that they had to bring back in.
Yeah.
So, and also, if you think about it, Dick has always been a more approachable character when it comes to writing personal stories about superheroes. So when Dick was a Batman, the stories were actually more introspective. Now, Tom King has brought that element to Batman now, so he's not doing the big grand storylines. He's doing real personal, interpersonal relationship storylines, and they're working nicely. And it did transition well from Snyder, because when Snyder was doing All-Star Batman, he was also doing the first arc of Batman with Tom King, and that was with Gotham Girl, and that wasn't really Tom King. Like, I'm really thinking this isn't really Tom King, and then it moved into his own, just on his own, when Scott Snyder left, which was I was really happy about, because the stuff he's doing now is the stuff that I want to read. I mean, there's a double date with Superman and Lois, with Clark and Lois.
That's a good issue.
That's a great one, man. That's what I'm saying. And it's just a one-off. It's just a one-off fun issue, and it doesn't. And then he's gonna go right and do another. I mean, that's what I like about him. He can write the big arc, or he can write the one-off single issue, and he's brilliant at both.
Yeah, he is. He really is like a gem DC have poached from Marvel, and Marvel should never let them go.
I
Oh
think.
no.
I mean,
Well, DC's gain, man, because he's killing Batman like every month, and it gets better every month.
and
I'm
the
telling you.
and the thing is, it was like Batman is fantastic. Detective Comics is really good and intricate with the whole future Robin, the future Batman story arc and everything, and now the Clayface story arc. Nightwing, has been really good. What really is, and even I will admit, even Red Hood. Now Red Hood's not as strong, but I enjoy the stories in Red Hood. I like his dynamic with Artemis, and I like this whole genius level Bizarro that they did. Really, in my personal opinion, the weakest Bat book is Batgirl right now, and she has been since. And
Long
I
time.
will say it. I will say it. It's on air. It's on record. Batgirl has not been good since Gail Simone stopped writing her. I have said it. It is on air. You can quote me on that, people.
Simone's Batgirl's a lot darker than what they're doing with Batgirl.
Well, they had a dark Batgirl with a really good story. The whole thing with her father, and then all of a sudden she's in yellow Doc Martens.
That was the bad idea. Just didn't come through with the writing.
She's like age regressed. Like why? How did she turn into a teenager now?
She turned back to
It was an interesting idea for a new market, and I think it worked to begin with, and it just didn't carry on, and that's a shame.
I think
they can do that stuff in the multiverse, but but to make it canon, the canon Batgirl book, that was the mistake.
Yeah, that's difficult. It's a very difficult sell.
And I think it's also kind of what you said earlier about Nick Spencer. Brendan Fletcher, who was one of the writers on that book, he did not take criticism well. If you criticized his Batgirl book, he would light you up on Twitter. He would curse you out. He would block you. He could not take criticism at all. If you said you had an issue with a book, he would immediately start touting you as a misogynist or you don't like female characters. I mean, he would go off the deep end.
It's one thing fans being dicks, but when comic creators do it, you realize why the fans are dicks. Like you have to
people are gonna not buy your book if you act that way.
Only Alan Moore gets a pass to be a dick. Only Alan Moore gets to be a dick.
So I have a question.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Doomsday Clock? One, the book, and two, the concept of it.
I think Johns is doing an amazing job at aping Alan Moore for the first few issues at doing Watchmen stuff. It's more Watchmen than it is anything else.
Really, it is.
So far.
Now, I struggled to read it because I remember when before Watchmen came out, and I didn't mind that so much because there were prequels or like kind of establishing stories. Because Watchmen, in and of itself, is a contained story, and it's an interesting story, and each character finishes their path. I started reading the new one, and it is really well drawn, really well written. Because it is, it's a very competent book, right? And I just the second issue came out, and I thought the first issue was quite impressive. I was like, oh, this is quite good, even though I don't Watchmen and to join the DC universe.
I'm kind of hoping it's done after this. Actually, I'm kind of hoping it's introduced in this, and then they're gone, and we don't get individual Rorschach books and stuff like that.
That's the problem I have, is that I don't want to know any more about Rorschach or Ozymandias. I'm done. I made my peace with the original books, and I enjoyed them. I studied them, and I read them again and again and again. And I don't want more, and that's why I'm not reading it anymore. I read the second issue. I was like, I don't want this. Even though I'm not going to, the book I think is very, very well written, very well drawn. So I'm kind of one of those Watchmen people now, that readers, the fans that are like, Watchmen was what it was for a reason, and I think it should stay that way, and that's why I've stopped reading it.
Here's what I think. First of all, like you said, it's a lot more a Watchmen book at this moment in time than it is a DC book, because you get one shot of Superman at the end of the first issue.
They've opened up the language. They've let him swear on it, and they've let him make it more Alan Moore-esque by making it more mature in that sense. They've said some things I know they're not going to let fly in a regular mainstream DC book. But I think that this is something. I think you can still keep the Watchmen as this thing and still use this. But like I agree with you that I don't think they should carry this on after this. I think this should be a one and done event. But having to do Dr. Manhattan's story is kind of unwritten. He left the Earth, and that's kind of what this is going to deal with, and that's why.
But that's the beauty of it, though. That's the beauty of that storyline, because we know that Rorschach died. We know that Night Owl disappeared off. Either you don't really know what happened to them, but that's good because you've had that question in your mind for years and you've been thinking about it, and I don't want to answer it. That's quite simply the truth. And there are people out there who are angry about there being a Watchmen book, and they're angry that these storylines are carrying on and like credit hasn't been given to Gibbons and Moore and things, but I don't really. That doesn't bother me either. It bothers me obviously as much as it bothers anyone else about how original creators aren't getting the rights and the credit for their books, but not particularly just the Watchmen. I'm just more bothered about how my own feelings towards the original books are, and how I deal with that person. And that's why I'm not going to disparage anyone else from reading it, but it's done for me. I'm not going to pick any more up.
Well, like I was saying, it feels more like a Watchmen book. With the little bit that we get, you get one shot of Superman at the beginning, at the end of the first issue. You get more Batman in issue 2 and 3. Now, they're addressing so many. This book is going to address so many things. It's going to address basically back to Flashpoint. Because we know that now we know that Dr. Manhattan had a hand in the Flashpoint, and in some way, shape, or form, and it's going to be interesting to see what their end game is with this, because everything with Rebirth, the return of the original Wally West, and everything going on there, there's so many questions. There are so many questions from New 52 that need to be answered, and this hopefully will tie everything up.
That's what I mean. I think that the Watchmen, because of the DC multiverse, the Watchmen being part of that multiverse in some way. I mean, it may never touch the main Earth Prime of the hero universe. The Watchmen universe is still interconnected. Maybe not canon in what we know as superhero books, but it exists in the multiverse. And I mean that for them to use those characters to write a story from some of those characters, I don't think it really disparages the original story, The Watchmen. I think what it does is but yeah, I agree. Like I said, I don't think they should carry this on. Like I don't want a Rorschach book. I don't want a Night Owl book after this. I want it to be touch on these characters to make a story out of what's going on, and then leave it alone forever.
That's the important point, is they're not disparaging the original books, and they have a lot of respect for the original material, and that's why Jeff Johns is doing a really good job with this. But yeah, it's just personally my own love for a book, and and you can't begrudge people's own views on these sort of situations. But as long as they're not being disrespectful, you could argue that the existence of the book is disrespectful, but let's get over this. Just milk the shit out of everything. It's welcome to business.
And I'll admit they're doing this one. DC has done, in my opinion, some horrible jobs integrating characters from other universes into their books in the past. My main gripes are like Grifter and Voodoo from Wildcats. Yeah. A book I loved growing up. I loved Wildcats, and they just didn't transition well into the DC. I mean, when you have Grifter fighting the Wildcats villains, and then Superman shows up, it's really weird. But but even like Constantine, who started off in DC, then it was a Vertigo title, and then went back to DC.
Yeah.
They're I think, and especially it's Johns. It's Jeff Johns, and with his track record of good books, good storylines. I mean, he brought Aquaman back to prominence. He brought Aquaman back to being cool again. And kudos to Dan Abnett, because his current run is freaking fantastic, and the artwork is just gorgeous in Aquaman right now. I'm excited to see where Johns takes this and see what the final answers are.
Superman to me is such a weird character because he's like the most powerful dude and like the nicest guy in the world, and like in the DC universe, like nobody can step to him, and he's always got to fight guys like Darkseid to go full out. That's one of the things that's kind of cool about Marvel, is that they deal with their overpowered characters a little bit. Like the Hulk is the Hulk could literally end the world with a punch to the ground, like vaporize it. He's so powerful, but he's a big dumb animal. He doesn't have like the intelligence to think about doing something like that on his own. like Superman can do the same thing. He's just not going to do it. But I mean, it's a little silly to have any kind of minor villains in a world where there is a guy like Superman that has super intelligence, is a super good guy, and has all the powers. There should be no street crime whatsoever in the whole world, because if there's one guy like Superman, there wouldn't be. So you got to suspend some disbelief here and there, I guess, with comic books.
I want to ask Kulbir about your thoughts on when a character gets a new movie or a new TV show, and all of a sudden the books have to completely change to be carbon copies of what people are going to be able to see on TV. My main example is Supergirl. I really enjoyed the new 52 Supergirl because, and Chief and I have talked about this before, she was a defiant Supergirl. She would defy. She wouldn't speak English, the English word, Americanese or whatever.
She wouldn't learn any Earth languages.
No Earth languages. She would only speak Krypton. She would not. She didn't want to go with Clark's stuff that he was doing. She wanted to do her own thing. And then all of a sudden, hey, Supergirl's coming to the CW, and then the book is immediately she's everything that's on the CW show. She's working for Cat Grant. She's got foster mom and dad now. What are your thoughts on them when taking a character and then completely changing them to mimic what's on the screen?
I think that it has to really be with the writer and what the creator's doing with the storyline. So I don't think anyone has a right to change what a writer's doing with a character. So if the book changes and they get to finish their story, that's great. And if they're then changing it to a new type of character, that you bring on a new writer, you can do that. That's fine. But I don't think you should change it in the midst of someone else's storylines. That really bothers me. But and what can you do?
What can you do?
People are going to want new readers. People are going to want new readers, aren't they? Yeah. They want to get more people involved in comics, and I'm all for that. And if it means getting someone to change the storyline so people could recognize the Supergirl they see on TV, and I don't mind that so much. But it shouldn't get in the way of what the writer's original intentions for that was.
I mean, when they do something...
I think there's a lot of impatience because, like I said, if you've been watching comics long enough, been reading comics long enough, you'll know there's been a lot worse gimmicks done in comics in years past than anything going on right now. There has been some really whacked out shit that they've tried to fleece the American people and people around the world with these dumb promotions and gimmicks in comics. And I mean, just be patient. There, if you're patient enough to pick the good stuff, there's good stuff out there to read.
Always is, and that's why you just carry on.
Yeah.
With the other question I would ask you is, I go on about two things on my old park, and that was Tom King and Transformers. Do you guys read any of the Transformer comics?
You know what? I haven't. I did pick this up though, Kulbir, the other day. I picked this up the other day. Check that out. It's the Power of the Prime Grimlock.
Oh, nice.
It looks just like the old generation one. I actually fell off of Transformers I fell off of it because so you would have what you had Transformers and you had Transformers More Than Meets the Eye.
Yeah.
And then it became like the Lost Light, and then there was like Optimus Prime got his own, it became like Optimus Prime. It just seemed like they would change the titles so often. And you have these two stories going on. You have these two storylines going on in the separate books, but they're still all connected. And we've said it before. That book is a very intellectual book. You have to read it.
Was there a Beast Wars in there somewhere? Didn't they do a Beast Wars title?
No.
I would like to get back. I would like to get back on it. It's just I wouldn't know where to start this. Again. And plus then they would do. They did all the, now they're crossing over with Micronauts and ROM and...
Right, yeah. They're creating the IDW universe is what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I had relatively indifferent to because I don't really care about these other characters. I just want to read Transformers.
Which I'm going to be interested because since Sonic is going to IDW, I'm going to be... Is he now going to be part of the IDW universe?
I don't care for crossovers that much at all. I've never been one of those people that likes mashups with things either. I just don't think it makes any sense to me. I just give me the character I want to read about.
So briefly, Lost Light carries on where More Than Meets the Eye was, and then Optimus Prime carries on where Transformers was.
Okay.
But they also had Till All Are One, so there was another book that was about Cybertron whilst Optimus Prime was on Earth. And yeah, I can appreciate that, but the trades are pretty good, and they come like quite nicely in these big giant trades that work quite well. So, but anyway, it's one of those writers that it's a case of building a storyline from scratch, and then taking all the storylines to the end. Like they don't leave anything uncovered, even though you won't get the hook to a story, a panel that was on like 30 issues ago. So it is something you have to really almost study to really get the benefit out of. But it's still fun. It still looks good. If you can handle the art of Transformers, you should read it, because Transformers art is very difficult to do well. Because
did they have the freedom to create new Transformers in it? Did they create new characters, or does Hasbro got the kibosh on it and say, no, we gotta make a toy now? So.
No, they're pretty good at making new characters. They have to sometimes toe the line and have new characters change their outfits and do different things so that they can sell toys. But they work that in quite nicely into the storyline. So I now have a Transformers collection. I've got like 20 of them because I'm obsessed with the books. So I'll buy them. I'll buy the third-party ones that look just like the characters in the books that I'm liking.
I have the Year of the Horse Optimus Prime Special Edition right there. That big red box that's right there.
It's such an interesting. It's such an interesting time in comics, as we've been saying, with so many things changing, characters changing to mimic things. I mean, Archie is basically nothing but Riverdale now.
What does that?
Archie lost. I don't know. It's like after they lost the rights to Sonic, and they lost the rights to Mega Man. Mega Man's now been coming out. They just released one called Mega Man Mega Mix or something like that, and it's the original Japanese manga. It's an 80-page, like the first volume is 80 pages, and it's the original Japanese manga finally translated, but it's in a comic book form. You still read it like you would a manga. You read it from right to left instead of left to right. But they lost those. I don't even know what they're doing. They used to have what, like the Black Cat or something like that, or Black Fox or something. But it seems like all I've been seeing lately is Riverdale, and more Riverdale. It's kind of sad in a way. And then you've got Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn body switching with Betty and Veronica on DC, so they've kind of had this little collab going on. It's Archie's weird.
I'll never read that. I just don't care about that at all.
It's really weird. And then Vertigo has Astro City still, the DC imprint.
I like Astro City. I've only read a few issues of that.
I've never read Astro City.
I'm gonna go back and read. I haven't either. I've read like 1 or 2 issues, but when they came out with the dog hero,
the corgi hero, yeah.
Yeah, was it Good Dog was his name or something like that? Good Dog or Good Boy or something like that. He was a guy that he stole this medallion, and he had a dog at home, and he stole this like ancient medallion as like a Native American medallion or something he found in this. He was a burglar, and he robbed this woman, and he found this thing, and he took it home, and wearing it when he touched his dog while he was wearing this thing, it transformed him into a little corgi dog man. But he had like all kinds of like superpowers, and it was really funny. But it was actually like it had a lot of heart to it. It was really sad because the dog, he found out that this dog was a stray. He didn't know how old it was, and he found out like at one end of one of the books that the dog was like 12 or 13 years old. It was almost ready to die, and it was like really sad. This relation this guy had with his dog, and like he could feel what the dog would feel, and like could hear it, and it would. Like when they fly, the dog was like, "This is the greatest thing ever." I've never. Or flying, and like you could hear like this. All this dog wanted was praise and to be called a good boy, and it was really a heartfelt story, but it was really funny too, because this guy became this really squat like corgi man, and a superhero. But it was really good. But I guess it's like it's a whole series that's been going on forever that I haven't read any of. But I'm gonna go back and check it out, I think.
Definitely. Go ahead.
I was talking about. Did you watch any of the recent movies? What have you watched out recently, superhero-wise?
The My Little Pony movie.
Yeah, I've seen nothing. I will not. I can't go to theaters, especially during flu season. I won't go to the theater because everyone coughs on everybody and they're all gross, and I don't like sitting close to people.
You
And,
and I should never be dead. Given how much exposure that I have to things.
Yeah, I don't like people. I like to watch when I watch movies. I like everyone to be quiet, and I want to watch the movie. And I hate cell phones, and I hate talking. The last movie I went to see, I think in a theater, was Force Awakens. It was the last time I went to see a movie.
Wow.
And and Spin laughs at me because I did this, but I couldn't take it anymore. I never go to theaters, and I really have a lot of social anxiety when I'm in theaters with people all around me. And I'm watching the movie, and it's in 3D. And a lady with her daughter, like little daughter, is sitting next to me. And during the course of the movie, this woman is not paying the least bit of attention to her child. And she's wearing those light-up shoes. And the little girl is just stomping her feet, like, right next to me. And it's just a sparkly array of light blinding me. And I waited a long time, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, Jesus, with the fucking shoes! Just right at this lady. And I just lost it, and then I felt really bad, and I was like, I just stayed quiet and watched the rest of the movie. But she told her daughter to stop, to stop kicking her feet. But I lost my cool, but Spin seems to think that's hilarious. But see, I'm no good out in public at the movie theater.
I see. The reason why I find it hilarious is, and Chief will tell you, I'm very diplomatic in everything that I do, you know. But I love his impulse. I just love his impulses, and that's why I'm so excited to get back with him for C2E2, because we're gonna have. Listen to this, Kulbir. Chief and I are gonna be alone in Chicago for like 3 days with no parental supervision.
Yeah, I'm getting dropped off the hotel.
Yeah.
I'm basically getting dropped off with a credit card.
You have a set amount of cash, and don't take any cards with you.
Oh no, I'm gonna be well prepared. I've got a hotel room within a mile or two of the con, and there is a free shuttle that takes you to the con, so there's no walking around really. But I believe it also goes to the comic shop right there too. There's a Graham Cracker Comics right there in downtown Chicago, so we can go there too. We can just hang out and do some cool stuff, ride the tram around, see what's going on.
Yeah. It has. I mean, there's been so much going on with comics. There's been a lot of good buys. We've been doing a lot of good buys. I picked up. I don't know if you were on last time or if I bought it afterwards. I finally got a first appearance of Shang-Chi.
Oh wow! That's awesome.
$40. I found it for $40.
I'd love to hunt those boxes in America. I'd love to do that.
You need to come out here and hang with us and come hunting with us.
Oh, yeah.
Chief went to hit one of his secret spots, and he made out like a bandit the other week.
Yeah, well, the two that I got that are the coolest, I think, is that I've got. Let's see, this is a Charlton Captain Atom number 80. Silver Age, back in the Charlton days with Captain Atom. And then I finally I was looking everywhere. I even asked the guy where I bought this if he had any of these one time. So I think when you went with me, Spin, we went and I asked the guy if he had these, and he said, "Oh, I thought I had some somewhere, but they're all gone." I managed to finally come across Ghost Rider Volume 1, Number 1, the first issue of Ghost Rider, which I thought I only paid $20 for it, and I thought for sure it's got to be more than that,
And that's Carter Slade Ghost Rider. That's not Johnny Blaze. That's Carter Slade.
The old school Western Ghost Rider. But I've been looking for that book for like 5 years, and I went into an antique mall with my wife, and this guy had a comic case there full of old comics, and the first one just laying on the top of the second shelf when I walked by was Ghost Rider number 1. I was like, you've got to be kidding me! I've been looking for this book. For at least 5 years, I've been looking. Like I even looked at C2E2 in like every box and couldn't find it, and it had to be there, and I still didn't see one.
Looking at the time, it's almost that time for us to be getting out of here tonight. That way, Kulbir can go back to sleep.
What, like 4 a.m?
Yeah. You'll get a little bit more sleep, and then you can go get some breakfast. We want to thank Kulbir for coming on with us. We're gonna get the plugs out of the way. for everybody. I want to give a thanks to Stephen Wilds. He gave us another comment on our YouTube channel on the episode. Remember, all episodes of the Nerd Rage Renegades podcast not only go up on Podbean and everywhere that are sentient. I don't know if Kulbir ever knew that we have a sentient AI now that says all the stuff I don't want to say. We have a sentient AI now. She'll say in a minute where all the formats that we're on. But the show also goes now up on YouTube, so if you've got YouTube, you're at work, you don't want to have your phone plugged into your ear, you can go on YouTube, you can look up Nerd Rage Renegades, and you can get all the podcasts right there. Also, there's all of our commentary tracks. Make sure you go check out our latest commentary track, which is Beastmaster 3, The Eye of Brexus.
That sounds like fun.
You're coming up Strike Commando with Red Brown.
Strike Commando's coming up. And also coming up, Renegade Gaming is coming back. I captured gameplay footage the other night. I beat the Roar of the Beast for Sega Genesis. I will never play that fucking game again. Fuck that game. But I beat it. I've got the gameplay footage, so that'll be coming soon.
That's the message I got word for word, like late at night from Spin.
Fuck that game.
Yeah, I'm never playing this fucking game again. That's what I got in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Now, what's even worse is now I have to play its counterpart, Bell's Quest, and capture the footage for that one. I'm gonna go into psychosis for that shit. But that's YouTube. Make sure if you're on Stardust, go to Stardust, the Stardust app. Click on it. It's a free app for movies, trailers, and TV reactions. If you go on Stardust app, make sure you follow us first, Nerd Rage Renegades. Follow us first. It gives us credit. That lets them see you're coming because of us. And we can bring more content to you. Latest reactions: Ant-Man and Wasp trailer, and the trailer for Unsane, starring Claire Foy, who is the Queen of England in the show The Crown.
Yay!
She plays the Queen. She plays the Queen. Hooray! I will say this, Kulbir. I'm gonna say this, and I'm not. This is no disrespect to London, but they portray Charles in his childhood as like a little bitch in that show. Literally, he's like a little bitch.
No.
No disrespect though. No disrespect to the Crown Prince. No disrespect to the Crown Prince. But yes, YouTube.com Stardust app. You can follow Kulbir on the Twitter at CoolieBear.
Yeah, I still tweet every now and again. I still tweet good books. Like, I don't tweet as much, but I always try to send the love out there.
And
But
one thing
also,
about Kulbir, he'll give you some quality. He'll give you some quality recommendations. He's not going to pull a book out of his ass and just say, "Hey, go read that." He's going to tell
quality.
you a good book.
And if you do want to read some of Kulbir's past writings on books, some great character studies of stuff that he's read before, houseofflyingscalpels.com. Go over there. I mean, go.
An archive of a good time in comics.
Oh, yeah. Go read his stuff on Battle of the Atom.
The Hickman stuff was brilliantly written, analyzed. Good stuff to read. If you want to know about some really good stuff that came out a while back, then go check it out. Because it's still wonderful. It's still great writing on comics.
Thanks so much.
Like I said, I still love your whole thing on Battle of the Atom.
all the Hickman review stuff was just great too, and I love the way Kulbir would break down a book. That's what I'm missing in comic reviews, is because Kulbir will take a book and like break it apart down to the colors used in the panels, which is what you should do if you're gonna straight up really get into reviewing books. So a lesson for all. If you want to review books, go look at the house and learn from Kulbir.
Yes, definitely. And of course, you can follow Chief at Space Chief 75 on the Twitter. Lots of good pictures of the doggies.
I got other stuff. I put up my signed Stan Lee today.
I do. Like I said, I love the pictures of the dogs, especially anytime we get to see Otto flying through the air. You know, like the.
Oh, that's Libby. Libby's the flyer.
Libby's the flyer.
Otto stands dumbfounded on the ground and watches her fly.
You can follow me at the official Nerd Rage Renegades Twitter account. I usually will post. I still post stuff. Oh, I post stuff there. And then of course Facebook.com/NR Truth Radio. Our Instagram, probably around C2E2 time, you'll see a lot more going up on there because we'll actually be taking pictures.
Yeah.
And like I said, Chris,
a lot of live updates from the con for everybody. We're gonna have a lot of coverage this year. We've got 3 uninterrupted days in downtown Chicago. You're be getting flooded with content in those days.
If I can get it beforehand, I'm even going to be bringing my NES Mini Classic. If I can
You
get,
gotta bring something, man. We gotta have something in the room. You gotta bring one of the systems.
I'll bring my NES Mini Classic if I can get my Elgato in time and get everything set up. Maybe Chief and I will live stream playing Tecmo Bowl.
I'll do that. I would bring my Xbox One, but I don't want to haul it around.
Yes, and of course, Crystal will tell you every place that we are every week on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
The Nerd Rage Renegades are on the air every Wednesday on Podbean, Stitcher, Player FM, iTunes, Google Play, and every Thursday on GamingRebellion.com, Filling the Void Podcast Network, and now iHeartRadio.
And with that, it is about time to get out of here. So, if you want to stay tuned for DC Comic reviews. If not, Kulbir, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. It's good to see you again. And we'll see you at 200.
We'll see you at 200.
At your anniversary show, I'm very touched to still let me come on.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Come on anytime you want, really. I mean, with the 25 thing, it's just a joke. I mean, if you really want to come on before that, you can.
All right.
Anytime, man.
Anytime, man.
That's awesome.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! The Renegades are about to spoil this week's DC Comics.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your DC Comics reviews for the week of February 7th. That is the day these books will be coming out, and the date you're probably checking out this review. A lot of books that came out this week. I want to start off with Batman number 40, part 4 of The Super Friends. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, writer Tom King, art by Joel Jones, coloring Jordi Bellar. I just want to start off by saying I'm really liking Joel Jones's art.
Yeah, it's I don't know people are gonna say I'm an idiot, but it's got a kind of a weird, almost Magnolia quality to it, just the way the shadowing is. It's not like Magnolia, but you know what I mean. It's got that.
Yeah.
Like
no,
that stark line shadow that I kind of dig.
Yeah. So when last we left our heroes, Batman and Wonder Woman have been fighting the Horde for decades.
Yeah, I think they go up somewhere in the book like 31 years or something, or 33 or something like that.
Yeah.
Where they've been in that dimension.
So the gentleman who's been fighting the Horde for centuries, he gets a day off. Batman and Wonder Woman take over. Where we left off in issue number 39 was
time moves slower, and he's been there all that time, but he's only been gone from Earth like a year.
Yeah.
So it's like the decades run past really fast there in a matter of a day.
And in that dimension, you don't age.
Yeah, you never get old. It's an endless fight.
Constantly endless. So when we last left, Batman and Wonder Woman were about to make the smoochy face.
Yeah.
And
which I don't know, it felt kind of real at that minute in this issue. What happens?
Yeah. So we pick up with them about to smoochy face, and they stop. Batman's like, I can't do this. I love Catwoman. And they talk about, yes, I love Catwoman. Wonder Woman talks about how much she loves Steve Trevor, and they continue to fight the Horde. Meanwhile, Catwoman's getting pissed that this gentleman guy didn't tell them that, that even one day is centuries in there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think, didn't he say it was like, it would be 10 years at the end of the first day that they were there? Or so, I don't know how time seemed to pass really, because they were there like 30 odd years. I don't know how long they waited, but it was because he wanted to see his wife, because he'd been gone from our dimension for a year, and he wanted to see his wife. But he still had this commitment. But he was kind of dragging his feet, and Catwoman was pissed. Even at one point had her foot on him. And,
it's admirable. It's admirable. I mean, he wants to see his wife, and He says in here, an hour or two is about a decade or more.
Okay,
so 1 hour equals 10 years. So, but he wants to see his wife, and that's admirable. And this issue we get intercut between him, Catwoman, and his wife, and then Bruce and Diana fighting the Horde. And wonderful art pages of them fighting the Horde. It is simply beautiful the way that the color is. I mean, it's a dark coloration, but
it's dark, but it's got like pops of color in it too, like in the fire and when they're around the fire and stuff. It looks good, and it's a real. That's another credit to how it's being done, to the artist and to Tom King, is how go look at one of the issues from Court of Owls, or look at Endgame or any of that, and then compare it to today's issue of Batman. But it still feels like that Batman. Still feels like that character's life. And it's just completely morphed into this completely different thing. And Tom King is just knocking that book out of the park every month.
And we find out a secret about Wonder Woman in this issue. She has a pet kangaroo.
Yeah, named Jumpa.
Jumpa the kangaroo. Now we need more Super Pets comic books. That way we can get Jumpa in there.
Oh, yeah. But, that's she doesn't talk about it. She doesn't like to talk about it. But Bruce said he missed Ace and not Titus, the current bad dog. He said he missed his dog, and he said his dog Ace. So I don't know if he just named did Damian rename the dog? It was named Ace before, because Ace the Bat Hound goes way back. That was the old Bat Hound.
It's funny because they mentioned Ace in here. They mentioned Jump, and I want to say recently in like Supergirl or something, or I'm not sure where it was, but she had mentioned she wasn't much of a dog person, but a cat person, which leads to Streaky. Now we just need the Super Chimp.
And the horse.
And the horse, Comet, the super horse.
That kind of leads into we finished. We didn't quite finish. So anyway, Catwoman has to convince the gentleman to leave his wife and go back and relieve Bruce and Diana.
And it ends pretty well. It ends really well. There's a really good interaction between Wonder Woman. I don't want to ruin what's said. But there's a really good interaction between Wonder Woman and Catwoman, and I mean, really, this is kind of this whole series that Tom King's been writing has been the Trinity accepting Catwoman, Superman and Wonder Woman accepting Catwoman.
Yeah.
So
and in return, like Catwoman's kind of seeing the responsibility and stuff of Bruce being with knowing these people. And not to be like, maybe not so much a hard ass.
Yeah.
She's softening up a bit to the idea of being like normal people with Bruce at some point.
So this was definitely a good issue. I highly recommend Batman. There's been people have been saying some, they have their opinions about it. I honestly believe, and I think Chief you do too, that Batman, this whole Rebirth Batman has been just a phenomenal run.
Yeah, I think Batman for like the last 7-8 years has been solid as fuck.
Yeah. Really, really good. So you read Snagglepuss. I
did read Snagglepuss.
I've read the first issue. I haven't read the second issue yet.
I just don't understand. I mean, it's not. No, I'm not saying the story is actually. It's a pretty interesting story, and it's kind of taking place around like wartime and like propaganda.
It's the McCarthy era.
Yeah, and it's like a anti-red propaganda and shit like that, and they want to make patriotic. The government wants to make patriotic movies, and they go to Snagglepuss, and he says he won't write propaganda for them. So then he gets basically, but it's because it's split with the Detective Sasquatch, so it's not very long this time, but it's he gets but at the end of the book, we're introduced to Huckleberry Hound and Augie Doggy are in this, and Peter Potamus and Squiddly Diddly are all in this issue. But the thing about it that I don't get is why can't they just be people? The story itself I don't know why it's got to be these cartoony, because it's really weird because everyone else in the world is completely human. Like everyone else is like normal looking human being, like a realistic human being. I don't know what normal means as human beings, but I mean a realistic depiction of a human being. But Snagglepuss is like a 6'5" pink lion animal hybrid guy, that wears clothes, and Huckleberry Hound is the blue dog. It's like a regular, normal sized guy, and it's just weird. And Squiddly Diddly's got a bunch of arms, but he's got a face like a human, and it's just fucking weird, man. I don't know why they had to use those characters for this story. I think this story would be well on its own. I don't get the connection to the Hanna-Barbera cartoon Snagglepuss. You know what I mean? It's just they could have put anybody in there. They could have put the Thundercats in these roles, and it could have been still an interesting story. It's just weird the Hanna-Barbera characters are involved in this.
I think, and I can understand them because they're doing a lot with the Hanna-Barbera characters. I mean, there's this week we're also getting a Jetsons book coming out, a new issue of the Jetsons, and it is really interesting because you have they're anthropomorphic creatures, and none of them wear pants. First and foremost, that's kind of.
That's like your character did that in the cartoons, but I mean, I just thought it was a strange. Like, why is everyone else photo like realistic? They're these big cartoony animal guys.
I'm looking at it right now, and I see Squiddly Diddly, and it's like he's got the tentacles, but his face is like human features on the squid body. Now,
it's odd, right?
That's the odd. That to me is kind of odd. I mean, I'm looking at it. It's.
I think the story has impact. The story involves people that were blackballed and persecuted by the government for being communist or what have you, and it doesn't matter what. Like this is like Snagglepuss is a gay character in this. Huckleberry Hound is a gay character in this. You have Squiddly Diddly. He's just been introduced. We've barely seen what's going on with him. Augie Doggy is like a down on his luck wannabe playwright or something that wants to hang around Snagglepuss and see how the work is done. But it's weird to me that they're using the Hanna-Barbera. Like they could have created regular characters for this story. I was thinking when they did a Hanna-Barbera thing, they would do something more comedic. This is not a comedic book at all. This is a dead serious story of a high impact kind of subject matter of persecution of gays and lesbian people in the McCarthy era and the Red Scare and all that shit. And it's all really important, like serious subject matter, and they've got this big pink lion plugged into the main role, and a big weird looking anthropomorphic pink lion that nobody bats an eye at, and Huckleberry Hound is a dog with he's got a big dog face but like a human body, and I don't know, he could have put like any characters in there, and I mean it would have been the impact of the story. It just seems there's this weird disconnect that it's Hanna-Barbera characters, you know? It's like I would enjoy the story if it was a funny story with Hanna-Barbera characters, or I would enjoy the story as a historical piece of fiction written like a realistic depiction of life for people in that era. But it's just this weird disconnect when you slam Hanna-Barbera into this, man. I don't know.
I'm looking at Squiddly Diddly, and it's weird that I see Don Rickles. When I look at Squiddly Diddly, I'm seeing Don Rickles. But yes, I mean, it's a very serious story, and the story is good. It's just you got to get around those characters. You got to get around that it's an anthropomorphic pink lion, blue dog.
Yeah, I mean, it's dealing with like fucking people literally being blackballed from the entertainment industry because they were gay or trans or lesbian or what have you. And it's a serious subject matter with these big, corny, blue and pink character cartoon animals. Like, it's just strange. I don't know. The stories, I can't fault the story. Can't fault the writer. I can't really fault the artist. I mean, it looks weird, but I mean, the art's decent. But I mean, it's just, the whole concept is just weird to me, man.
But then it has the follow-up of Sasquatch Detective Anniversary, written by Brandy Stillwell, art by Gustavo Vasquez. You were actually excited for this one when you first heard that it was coming out.
Yeah, honestly, I love the artwork. I thought the artwork looked cool. The promo photo they were flashing around for this, and I thought that it looked cool. But honestly, I guess just because it's a backup in this story, there's not much to this. It's basically the whole thing. I mean, there's some cool artwork in it, but basically the whole thing is, hey, it's her and her partner. And then it's like they're flashing back to all this stuff they did for like 2 pages, and then, like that's basically it. It's like, hey, remember when we did this? And it's like all these funny situations they were in, and it's like there's no story to it yet, so it's kind of hard to review. It's just like an introduction to the character, so it's.
I mean, we're hoping that they do more with the character because we're both huge Sasquatch fans.
Yeah, apparently it takes place in the world where Law and Order SVU is real, so apparently it's supposed to take place in the real world, but. Yeah, there's not enough to it for me to even really review it. It's just an introduction to the character. I mean, as far as it goes, because it basically all the dialogue is, hey, remember this, remember that, remember this. The whole thing, there's no way to tell if the writing is going to be what kind of storyline they're going to go with it. There's no, or if they're even going to continue it. I don't even know where they're going to be next with this. But I mean, it's artwork. I can't fault the artwork. It looks pretty good. But there's just not much to review writer-wise. I mean, it doesn't really. It's just like a look back, like a kind of here's this character, here's this wacky detective duo, and this is some of the stuff they've done, and look for what they do next. That's basically what it is.
The Swamp Thing Winter Special.
Great. I thought it was great.
Fantastic. I absolutely love this one. Let's talk about this a little bit. The first story, now this is an 80-page giant issue, and this is a dedication to Len Wein, for the most part. This is a dedication to Len Wein, who sadly passed away.
I'm definitely going to get this hard copy of this. I didn't have this on my list, but I'm going to track it down because it's a fantastic book, this one.
The first story in this, The Talk of the Saints, which is written by Tom King, art and cover by Jason Fabok. Fantastic. I mean, just fantastic. It
hits everything with art and story. It's minimal. It's real minimal, but it's impactful and like it's you know, I don't know. It's really, I just think it's really good. I'm really running out of adjectives.
So Swamp Thing is in this blizzard snow world with this little boy, and every page, it's kind of like Swamp Thing's kind of like fighting to keep going because he's disconnected from the green because it's all snow. He's disconnected from the green.
It's like this eternal winter that keeps going and going.
And the boy is constantly saying, he almost had us yesterday, the monster almost had us, or you fought the monster. But they never show us the monster. You never get a glimpse of what's chasing them, but they have to keep walking because this monster's on their tail.
And that's cool, and like it's like you keep waiting to see the monster as you turn the pages, as you're reading, like or, you know, as you're looking through it, you're like, where's this monster? You're waiting for it, and it starts to dawn on you what's going on eventually.
Yeah, and I mean they come across a bear who's hungry in this eternal winter. Come across other humans in this.
That's
eternal winter.
The bear part was really heartfelt. That was like really a kind of a sad part. You could tell Swamp Thing didn't want to kill it. He didn't want to.
Yeah.
And he even gave it the speech like, I don't want to do this, and when this snow is gone, I'll come back and find your spirit and I'll guide you home. And he kills the bear to save the boy.
The final pages of that story of Swamp Thing is just a brilliant, you know.
Yeah, man, that's probably I'd say that's my pick of the week. Is that Swamp Thing book? That's amazing. It's good. Definitely.
The Renegades pick of the week is Swamp Thing Winter Special, and then there's another story in here which is it's a story written by Len Wein with pencil and ink by Kelly Jones.
Which I love Kelly Jones too, and that was like the dessert on awesome steak. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that was no dialogue in it at all. It was just told. There was no script really written or finished for it. So it's just the art and the kind of direction, I guess.
And it's great because it's Swamp Thing. Solomon Grundy's in it. You get to see some of the more weird transformations that Swamp Thing can undertake, and how he can travel around. Cool. Just a beautiful work by Kelly Jones. And
Kelly Jones Batman shows up.
Yeah, it's all really good. The Swamp Thing artwork is amazing. in this. I mean,
I love that Kelly Jones Swamp Thing look too. I've got some of those. I got some of the issues of. I think I got that run where Kelly Jones where Swamp Thing was in Batman, and I'm pretty sure I got the whole run. I might be missing one, but the artwork in that is fantastic. I love the way he draws Swamp Thing and Batman, and when they put them both together.
Oh yeah, the big ear Kelly Jones Batman.
Yeah, I love that. Those covers that he did through that run of Batman were just fucking awesome. Every one of them.
They give you the actual script for the story from Len and Kelly Jones.
Yeah, it wasn't finished, and I think they said that's the reason it wasn't complete, so they didn't want to put an incomplete script in there.
Yeah. But a nice little tribute to Len Wein. There's some good pictures of Len in here. There's a really good art that they did, that they had commissioned, that Dan Didio had commissioned in conjunction with Marvel, and it's an art piece of Len with Swamp Thing and Wolverine, and then a miniature like little statues of Deadman and the Hulk.
Yeah, this issue, I'm not sure how much it's. What is it? How many pages? 80.
It's 80 pages. Yeah.
It's going to be a little more pricey than your average issue, but it's the winter special, and definitely get it though. I mean, I'm going to get it. It's a good one. It's well worth it. All the extras you get in it, you get the awesome Tom King story kind of headliner, and then you get that awesome artwork from Kelly Jones in there, and then the script, and then all the extra stuff that goes with it, and the background on all of it, and it's well worth the money to get it. I would definitely get it.
Did you have one more this week?
Oh yeah, I read Superman this month. Which, man, you know what? They say Bendis has taken over action in Superman, but this teamwork on this Superman's been some of the best Superman that's been in 30 years, man. I'm telling you. And
James Robinson and Doug Monkey. I hope I said that right.
Yeah. It's just been since the New 52 Superman died and the old timey Superman, as I like to call him, came back. The relationship with him and his son, and the interaction with Batman and his son, and how that's bringing Batman and Superman together, it's fucking awesome. It's a whole new direction for those characters, and you're getting a second generation of heroes, the sons of Superman and Batman, who aren't annoying little pricks. They're both actually really cool characters and pretty well developed. And I don't know. We'll see what Bendis does. I'm going to give Bendis a shot over at DC because I've recently heard some information that may have changed my mind about Bendis going to DC. Mm-hmm. But I think I'll see what he's doing. I'll keep getting Superman and see how Bendis does on it. Because I think if he's focused on that character, and that's an old school character, I think he'll do well on it maybe. But I'll give him a break. I'll give Bendis a break on it. But this issue is Superman is showing his son a holographic image he created because he had gone I guess it's coming off of that Booster Gold story where he actually went to Krypton to witness the destruction of Krypton firsthand because someone once again has messed with the timeline and erased the Green Lantern's actual physical copy of the explosion of Krypton. So he couldn't see it, and he had to go actually took Flash's cosmic treadmill and went back in time to witness the explosion of Krypton. So what they're doing, he's got this holographic image now of the explosion of Krypton, and he brings Jonathan to the Fortress of Solitude, and he said because it's the anniversary of the destruction of Krypton, and he says, "I want you to see this on the anniversary, and we're going to do it as father and son or whatever." And as they do this, they watch the destruction. There's one funny part where he's like, "And yes, son, we're the last descendants of this planet, of these people, and we'll keep their memory alive." And Jonathan's like, "And cousin Kara," and he's like, "Yes," and then he's like, "And," he starts to go on like all the other Kryptonians that have survived the destruction of Krypton, which is kind of funny. Oh, he's like, and Crypto. He's like, "Yes, Crypto too." And so they're watching this hologram, and a distress alert comes in from somewhere in space in a different solar system that there's a planet, strangely enough, on the same anniversary as Krypton exploding, there's a planet in a different solar system that's about to explode and all. So Clark says, "Okay, well, we got to cut this short. I got to fly to this planet and deal with this and see if I can try to help." So Jonathan Kent keeps saying, well, we should, if we're going to do this is what a perfect thing we could do together, because Jonathan Kent also has super strength, and actually we found out is possibly more powerful than Clark. So he's like, well, okay, don't tell your mom. And so he takes Jonathan Kent with him into deep space, into this planet, and so they get there, and it's just like this weird kind of like seahorse people.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now.
And they're like religious fanatics, and they say, no, our God, whatever, I can't remember the name was, our God has deemed us unfit to survive, and if it's the destruction of our planet is his will, then we're going to let it explode. And Superman's like, no, I can't allow that to happen. You can't speak for everybody on this planet. And so they were going to let Clark and Jonathan go, but because he insisted on saving them, and they felt he demeaned their religion, so they said, no, we're going to depower you now, and you and your son are going to stay here and be destroyed with us. So they have some ability to take away Kryptonian strength and ability, because they start draining Superman and Superboy, and they barely just get away, and then they get saved last minute by somebody else. It's one of the same species of people, but he's a scientist of the planet. And he takes them in and saves them and says, yeah, well, you can help me, because these people are fanatics, and I'm trying to save the planet too. And, so they escape and get away in the end. But it remains to be seen where that's going. That's kind of the kickoff of this situation going on now. But it was a really good book. I love the artwork. Like I said, I think Superman is the best it's been in a really, really long time. And we'll have to just wait and see what Bendis does. But yeah, I'd say all the ones I read this week were pretty above board. Batman was great. Superman was great. The Snagglepuss thing, as weird as it is, I mean, I'm saying the story has merit. It's just the weird combo of Hanna-Barbera and this story just seems. I can't tell if they're not taking it seriously with these characters, or if this is some weird. I don't know if it's like if I'm missing like the art statement of it, using Snagglepuss for this, but that to me is strange. Detective Sasquatch, pretty good, but I don't know where it's going yet. But yeah, that Lin Wine too. That Swamp Thing Winter Special is just great.
Also this week you'll get books such as Young Monsters in Love, another 80-page spectacular stories by like Kyle Higgins has a story in here. Tim Seeley has a story in here. Definitely one to pick up, especially around the Valentine's Day coming up. Get your Young Monsters in Love. Paul Dini's got a story in there. This week you also will get Green Lanterns number 40, Nightwing number 38. You'll get Green Arrow number 37. Batman the White Knight number 5. You get Black Lightning.
That Batman White Knight, I want to catch up on that, because that was a really interesting story, and I kind of fell behind just because of time. I didn't have time to read them. But I'm going to catch up on that, because that was a really interesting, weird twist on the Joker.
Yeah. Black Lightning, Cold Dead Hands number 4. You get Harley and Ivy meet Betty and Veronica this week as well.
Oh, that's the one where they mind switch or whatever?
Yeah, this is number 5. Bane Conquest number 9, Deathstroke number 28, Harley Quinn number 37, Dastardly and Muttley number 6, Bombshells United number 11, Injustice 2 number 19, Justice League number 38, Mother Panic and Batman Special. And those are your books for the week. Once again, our pick of the week is Swamp Thing Winter Special.
Yeah, fantastic, and just about checks every mark for me.
Make sure you go pick that up. We'll be back again next week with more DC comic reviews, so make sure you head out to your local shop, drop some cash, buy some books, and enjoy your reading over the weekend.
Good night, everybody.
Nerd Rage Renegades.